Hello Eurovision fans, thank you so much for coming to my channel Eurovision Histories. After every Eurovision there is a discussion whether to abolish the juries because they are old-fashioned, because they are corrupt, because they have too much of an influence on the final result. But this year these discussions are especially intense because fan favorite Käärijä was not able to overcome Loreen's giant lead in the juries despite a massive televote. And so I want to do one of my pro-con videos today on whether we should abolish the juries or not. I will be playing devil's advocate, presenting both sides, and at the end of the video I also will give you my personal opinion on this issue. So let's get right to it. The Eurovision juries should not be abolished because they added a lot of professionalism to the whole contest. High-profile acts like Anouk or Patricia Kaas would not have agreed to participate in Eurovision if they were at the mercy of the public alone, knowing that your peers, music industry professionals were going to evaluate their songs probably felt like a bit of a safety net. Since the introduction of the juries, the quality of music has just increased very noticeably, and that is the reason why we had so many successes in the last couple of years with great hits like Arcade or Snap or Måneskin coming from Eurovision. We should get rid of the juries in Eurovision because they overvalue generic songs in English and just don't give a chance to quirky and more ethnic sounding songs. Thank you for mentioning Måneskin, by the way. The biggest stars to come out of Eurovision in recent memories, they didn't win because of the juries, they've won because of the televote. These patterns that you can see here that have emerged over the years make it really uninteresting to follow the jury vote because it's very predictable what kinds of songs they will vote for, and they also favor very heavily the favorites in the odds because quite obviously they don't want to downvote a song that is the big favorite supposedly. Just look at the 1990s when juries had full control and boring ballads in English won every single year. Had televote not been introduced, Eurovision might have died. And also it isn't true that the televote only favors flashy performances. Just look at Estonia this year that made it and qualified from a televote only semi-final. During the televote-only era of Eurovision, the quality of songs was really low. Do we really want to go back to the early 2000s when Eurovision was starting to become a laughingstock? And many Eurovision fans agree that this was the worst period in the contest's history. Juries help secure the reputation of Eurovision and make sure that quality entries end up higher on the scoreboard than joke entries. But Eurovision comes alive with these weird niche and different entries. And talking about the reputation, do you really think the jury corruption scandal in the semis last year helped the reputation of Eurovision? The juries can also manipulate who they vote for way more easily than the televote and favor their own country if they are part of the favorites that year. The juries also even out disadvantages because of the running order. Mans would never have stood a chance in 2015 against Italy and Russia, who were way later in the running order and therefore got a way higher televote. Isn't it unfair that a song early on in the show just doesn't stand a chance? The juries also award creativity way more than the televoters who just go for the flashiest performance. The juries aren't awarding creativity, they killed the most creative entry this year, Croatia, because it was in a style that they didn't like. Also, why should people spend money to vote for their favorites if they are then overruled? It's just very undemocratic that 200 people in these different juries get as much a say as millions and millions of people voting after watching the show. And winning because of the juries, like we saw this year, can make a win really sour. People in the crowd were chanting cha-cha-cha because the public actually preferred Finland's entry over Sweden's. The juries also help to even out bloc and diaspora voting that are very prevalent in the televote. Just look at the countries that didn't come into the top 10 this year, and at their televote you can really see the impact that bloc voting and diaspora voting has in these cases. It also helps countries without the big diaspora and neighborhood support like Malta or San Marino to do well, and I'm very sure that Luxembourg would not have returned with a televote-only Eurovision. In the new system of revealing the votes, the viewers also don't notice the diaspora and neighborhood votes as much as the televote is grouped together, and it also gives us a more balanced type of tableau of songs, because some countries try to impress the juries with more ballady sounds and other countries try to impress the televote. I think that only tattoos would be too much and too boring, but only cha-cha-chas would just be a bit too overwhelming as well. And last but not least, it also gives us the very cool and interesting vote reveal at the end, where you only know the winner of Eurovision at the very end of the voting sequence, which also makes for very good television. So these were all the pro and contra arguments I could come up with. I hope you liked listening to that. And now I would like to give you my personal opinion. I think that the juries and the televote even each other out quite well and give us a very balanced result. Yes, the juries prefer generic pop songs in English, and the televote may prefer flashy performances and support block voting, but the juries also give us a lot of professionalism and they even out the running order, and the televote gives people a say and makes sure that we don't have a final full of boring ballots like in the 90s. If you put them together, you get the best and the worst of both worlds, but only at 50%, and so you get quite a balanced result. I don't want to go back to the times where country sent increasingly flashy and joke performances to try to appeal to the televote. Yes, sometimes the people's favorite doesn't win in the end, like this year. But for example, in 2019, Arcade didn't win either the jury vote or the televote, and today it is one of the most successful entries to ever come from the Eurovision Song Contest. So the common denominator actually found the best song in the competition that year. So I would not abolish the juries, but I do think that we have to reform them. I think we need more than 5 people on each jury, because the personal taste of one juror can just influence the end result way too much. I also think we need criteria on the demographics and the background of all of these jury members, because they should reflect the taste of a broader audience than they do at the moment. I also think that the vocal performance has way too much weight in the final result of the juries, and that creativity and uniqueness should be a criteria that they also vote on. But I would add that to the criteria and not get rid of the juries entirely. Additionally, I just love the new way of presenting the votes. I think it makes for very good television and makes Eurovision way more exciting until the very end. Before, we had the winner after a certain number of countries had voted, and we still had to go to the other countries receiving their votes when everything was already clear. That was really an anticlimax. And to have this new way of presenting the votes, we need 2 separate results. So in the end, I would say the juries should stay, but we have to reform them, and that is my personal opinion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, whether you're pro or contra abolishing the juries, and please subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this one. I will be doing videos on Eurovision history, also a few more on Eurovision 2023. Thank you so much, by the way, for your comments and your pro and contra arguments, which I have used for this video and that you have posted in the community tab of my channel. So thank you, and I'll see you for my next video. Bye bye.